Alright, I'm making some more jerky. This is a eye of round. I got it from my local butcher. He's trimmed it up for me. So I see one small piece of fat there, but he's got it trimmed up for me. So all I got to do is slice it. What I'm doing is basically 1 cup of maple syrup. That's what I got there. I'm going to put a half a cup of beer in there. It's a light lager, really mainstream, low hop. That's what I want in there. That's 5.5 pounds or 2.5 kilos. So normally what you would do for that much meat, I'm gonna cure the jerky for at least a week and then smoke it a bit and then dehydrate it. Normally you'd have a 1/4 cup of salt. I'm going just slightly less than a 1/4 cup of salt. That's sea salt. You can use kosher salt or pickling salt. Don't use table salt with iodine in it. I've also got 2 teaspoons of curing salt with sodium nitrite. It's 6% sodium nitrite. You might hear it called Prague powder. And no, it's not always pink. It's the pink is a legal requirement in the United States. Here in Canada, you don't have to have it pink. However, I do have it labeled on the shelf to let people know that what it is. I've also got 2 teaspoons of freshly ground pepper. I just ground it in my pestle and mortar. I've got 2 teaspoons of this stuff. It's a little bit commercial. It's really good, actually. I got it at Costco. It's mostly dried vegetables. If you read through the ingredients, there's very little in it that's nasty. It's really just dried up herbs and vegetables. One of the reasons why I reduced the salt a bit here is that this has salt in it. It's a relatively minor component, but it could be as much as 1/3 salt or something. So I reduced the salt here to kind of compensate for the salt that's in here. I'm just going to mix this all up in my in this guy here. Mix it all up. Start slicing the meat. Throwing the meat into my Tupperware container here. And we'll show you how that goes as I'm doing it. Oh, and I forgot to mention my onion. I'm going to puree that onion and put it in there too. You can also just use onion powder in the past, but this time I'm going to puree that onion. Alright, I put half of the maple syrup in there. The other half I pureed it up with to help my onions puree in the mini chopper. And there I've got, actually that's 3/4 cup of beer. That's more than I want. So I will leave a 1/4 cup behind in there. And the rest of this stuff is just going in there to get mixed up. Alright. I'll give that a scrape with the spatula. Alright, so my salt, I'm going to keep a little bit back. I just have a funny feeling that might have been too much salt. So I'm just going to give this all a good stir. And once it's stirred up, I'm going to put it in here. And you put your liquid in first and start putting your meat in as you're cutting it up, and just kind of throw it into the liquid. Alright, so I got my my cure in here. I'm going to start cutting this guy up. I've misplaced my tripod, but you see another video of me cutting one of these anyway. I'm going to cut it this way first, and then I'm going to cut it this way so that it's with the grain, and so we'll have short strips like this going with the grain. That's just the way I want to do it for this batch, and then start placing them in here as I go along. This is about 4.2 liters, and it should fill it about 3/4 of the way that with 5.5 pounds of meat. We'll see when we get there. Alright, so you can see I started slicing this way and then flipped it over. We got the slices coming off of it about like that. We got some smaller ones too when I can't get the cut quite as well. But that's basically what we're dealing with. And you just start laying them in there. And lay them down nice and kind of, well, it doesn't matter as long as they're getting covered. I mean, it's not rocket science. You just kind of lay them in, and it should Should cover them all as you get packing it in there. Now, as you're putting your layers in there, you want to kind of mush it around a bit like this, because you want to make sure the cure is getting in between the layers. You don't want to have two pieces of meat sticking together with no cure in between them. So I'm about a little more than halfway through here, and it's coming along really nicely. It's really there's lots of cure left. There's lots of liquid left to fill the rest of it up with. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, when you get down to the last bit, it's harder to make them big and flat like that. So these are thicker, but you can make good jerky this way too. So we just get those last ones in. Unlike bacon, you won't be flipping this every day, but you do want to check it every day to make sure that everything is below the brine. So it's pretty good here. Once I give it a little massage here, it should all be below the brine, but you want to check it every day and just make sure it's still down in there. And if not, what I would do in this case, if I found that I didn't have quite enough liquid in there, I would just pour a little bit more beer over the top to cover it, and that would work its way in. But this is looking pretty good, actually. That's going to be just fine like this, and I'll give it a little massage every day. Make sure there's no pieces that are drying out or anything. So it's Saturday right now. I'm going to put this video up, actually, and then I will follow up next week with another video. This is going to cure for a week, and then I will probably smoke it just a little bit if I can manage to do that, and then dehydrate it. So I'll have a separate video to show you how that goes.